Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into something big?
Absolutely. Always excited to go deep.
Today we're tackling Elon Musk's vision for the future of transportation. And spoiler alert, it's about way more than just electric cars.
Right. He's been pretty vocal about building a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and we're going to unpack what that actually means, especially with his recent announcements about self-driving taxis.
Ah,
But here's the thing. This isn't just about some cool new tech. It's about who controls how we get around in the future.
that control aspect is huge, and it's something a lot of people might not even think about when they hear self-driving cars.
Exactly. So let's break it down. Tesla's developing an autonomous taxi service, basically like Uber or Lyft, but with no driver at all. Imagine, you pull out your phone, hail a Tesla, it picks you up, takes you wherever, no parking hassles, maybe even catch some extra Z's on your morning commute. Sounds kind of amazing, right?
Definitely appealing on the surface. But like you said, it's about more than just convenience. It raises some fundamental questions about transportation as a whole.
Like, what happens to personal car ownership if this takes off?
Right. A lot of experts are predicting a huge drop in car ownership, especially in cities, if people can rely on a self-driving fleet.
So instead of owning a car, we're subscribing to Tesla's network.
Essentially. Which might sound fine at first, but it comes with its own set of potential problems.
Okay, I gotta ask, what could be so bad about a service that convenient?
Well, think about it. What happens if Tesla raises prices because of high demand, or there's a technical glitch, or their network doesn't cover where you need to go?
Oh, I see what you mean. You're totally at their mercy.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of a transportation monopoly starts to creep in. Now, I'm not saying that's Tesla's goal, but it's something to consider.
So what does a transportation monopoly even mean in this context?
Imagine a world where Tesla's autonomous taxi service is the dominant force, and their charging network is the only game in town. What if they decide to flex that power?
Like how? Give me an example.
Let's say they make it super expensive for other electric vehicle companies to use their charging stations, or they restrict access to their network entirely. Suddenly, your options are really limited.
It's like being stuck playing a game of Monopoly where one person owns all the properties, right?
Perfect analogy. And that's why it's crucial to be having these conversations now while these technologies are still being developed.
Right, because once that Monopoly train leaves the station,
It's a lot harder to change its course, and the stakes are high. We're talking about something as fundamental as our freedom of movement.
and it gets even more complex when we factor in Elon Musk's other big transportation ambition, flying cars.
Flying cars.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but Elon Musk seems pretty serious about making it a reality.
He does, doesn't he? And it taps into that very human desire for what's next, for pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Totally. But I gotta admit, when we start talking about flying cars zipping around, my brain goes straight to those scenes in sci-fi movies where the skies are like super congested and chaotic. Is that a realistic concern or am I getting ahead of myself?
It's a valid question, and one that urban planners and aviation experts are already grappling with. Managing airspace in a future with thousands, potentially millions of flying vehicles is a monumental challenge.
Yeah, it's not like we can just slap some traffic lights up in the sky, right?
Not quite. We're talking about incredibly complex systems, sophisticated air traffic control, potentially even autonomous navigation for these vehicles to avoid collisions. It's a massive undertaking.
And who's leading the charge on developing those systems? It
Today.
sounds like we're talking about not just new vehicles, but a whole new infrastructure.
Exactly. And companies like Tesla, with their expertise in software, AI, and autonomous technology, are well positioned to play a major role in shaping that infrastructure.
Which brings us back to that idea of control. If one company, or even a handful of companies, are the ones designing the rules of the road, so to speak, for this brave new world of flying cars, doesn't that give them a lot of power?
It certainly does. And it raises some important questions about regulation, about fairness, and about ensuring that this technology benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake, that Tesla's vision for flying cars becomes a reality. They've got the vehicles, the software, the infrastructure. They're basically the Google Maps of the sky. What are some of the potential downsides, even if their intentions are good?
Well, one concern is accessibility. Even with traditional air travel, there's a significant disparity between who can afford to fly and who can't. With flying cars, there's a risk of exacerbating that divide, creating a system where only the wealthy have access to this faster, more convenient mode of transportation.
So it's like creating a two-tiered transportation system. those who can afford to fly above the traffic and those who are stuck on the ground.
It's a valid concern, and it goes beyond just cost. Imagine the potential for noise pollution, for safety concerns if these vehicles aren't properly regulated or maintained, for privacy issues if they're equipped with cameras and sensors.
It's like the Wild West, but in the sky. A whole new frontier with a whole new set of challenges. And without the right safeguards, it's easy to see how things could go wrong.
That's why it's so important to be having these conversations now while these technologies are still in development. We need to be thinking critically about the potential consequences, both positive and negative, and working to create a future where these advancements benefit everyone.
Absolutely. Because the decisions we make today about how we develop and implement these technologies will have ripple effects for generations to come. It's a lot to wrap our heads around, right? Flying cars, autonomous taxis, this whole potential shift in how we think about transportation. It feels like we're on the verge of something huge, something that could radically reshape our world. But it's not just about the technology itself, is it? It's about the choices we make, the rules we put in place, and the future we ultimately create.
I think that's such an important point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new gadgets and futuristic possibilities, but we have to remember that technology is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. It all depends on who's holding the hammer, so to speak.
And right now, it feels like there's a lot of different hands reaching for that hammer. We've got tech companies like Tesla pushing the boundaries of innovation. We've also got governments, regulators, and everyday citizens who have a stake in how this all plays out. So what can we do? How do we make sure that the future of transportation is one that benefits everyone, not just a select few?
Well, for starters, I think it's crucial to have these conversations, to raise awareness about the potential implications of these technologies, both positive and negative. Knowledge is power, as they say. The more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to make smart decisions and advocate for the future we want to see.
I totally agree. And it's not just about being informed, it's about being engaged. We can't just sit back and let the future happen to us. We need to be active participants in shaping it.
Exactly. Whether it's supporting companies that align with our values, advocating for policies that prioritize the public good, or simply talking to our friends and family about these issues, every little bit helps.
Like that idea of the butterfly effect, right?
Mhm.
Even small actions can have a ripple effect and contribute to larger change.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to stay optimistic. The future is not predetermined. It's a work in progress, and we all have a role to play in shaping it.
I love that the future is a work in progress. It's a good reminder that we have agency, we have a voice, and we can make a difference. This has been such a fascinating and thought-provoking deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights.
It's been my pleasure. These are important conversations to be having.
To all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope this deep dive has given you a lot to think about. Remember, the future of transportation is in our hands. Let's build it together. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.